the moment I stepped into the grand ballroom of the Willow Estate. I heard it, clear as day, even over the string quartet and the clinking of champagne glasses. Madison, my older sister, in her perfect ivory wedding gown, leaning toward her circle of bridesmaids with that practiced little laugh of hers. "Oh my God, look who finally showed up," she whispered, just loud enough for me to catch every word. The broke dropout sister in her thrift store dress. I thought she'd at least try to blend in today. Her friends giggled behind their manicured hands, eyes flicking over me like I was something stuck to the bottom of their designer heels. I just stood there for a second, letting it sink in, the same sting I'd felt 1,000 times before. But this time I smiled. Because what Madison didn't know, what nobody in that room knew, was that every crystal chandelier sparkling above her head, every imported orchid in those towering centerpieces, every inch of polished marble under her $4,000 shoes, belonged to me. I bought the Willow Estate 4 years ago. This entire lakeside resort, my crown jewel, the flagship of Reed retreats. And tonight, on what was supposed to be the happiest day of my sister's life, that little whisper was about to cost her a whole lot more than she ever imagined. My name is Alexa Reed. I'm 34 years old, and I grew up in a tiny town in Ohio where the biggest event of the year was the county fair. I left home at 20 with one duffel bag and a heart full of hurt, and I never really looked back. Not because I didn't love my family, but because my family made it painfully clear there wasn't much room for me in it. See, I have an older sister, Madison, the golden child, the one who got the straight A's, the cheerleading captain spot, the full ride scholarship, the one mom bragged about to anyone who would listen. Me? I was the quiet one, the dreamer, the kid who skipped college parties to sit with grandma when she got sick, the one who dropped out sophomore year to take care of her full-time when the cancer came back. Mom never forgave me for that. Irresponsible, she called it, throwing your future away. Madison agreed, of course. She was already engaged to Ethan Harrington by then, moving in those shiny new circles. And I was just the family embarrassment. So when Grandma passed, I packed my bag and left. Took a Greyhound to the city with $400 in my pocket and a promise to myself. I would never again let anyone make me feel small. People back home assumed I was barely scraping by. Waiting tables, maybe, living paycheck to paycheck. That's the story Mom told everyone. Anyway, it was easier for her that way. What they didn't know was that the first job I landed was as a server at a small boutique hotel. And something about that place lit a fire in me. I watched everything, learned everything: front desk, housekeeping, event planning, management. I took night classes online, saved every tip, invested carefully, took risks when they felt right. By 28, I owned my first property. By 32, I had 4 more. Now, at 34, Reed Retreats owns 5 luxury resorts across the Midwest. The Willow Estate is my pride and joy, the one I poured my soul into. But I never told my family. They never asked. To them, I was still the dropout who ran away. The cautionary tale. And tonight, Madison had invited me to her wedding. Last minute, of course. Probably so Mom could tell her friends both daughters were there. I almost didn't come. But something pulled me here. Curiosity, maybe, or that tiny, stubborn part of me that still hoped things might be different. They weren't. I walked in wearing a simple navy dress. Nothing flashy, nothing that screamed money, because real money doesn't have to shout. And honestly, you can take the girl out of the small town. But you can't take the small town out of the girl. I still love the quiet. Still prefer boots to heels. Still smell faintly of lake air because I'd spent the morning walking the grounds of my own resort. Checking everything was perfect. Mom spotted me first. Her eyes did that familiar up and down sweep, stopping at my shoes with a sigh. Madison floated over in her cloud of tulle. Air kissed my cheek, and whispered, "Try not to embarrass us. Okay?" I just smiled and found a spot near the bar. My staff knew who I really was. They gave me the same subtle nod they always do. Everything running smoothly, everything perfect. For now. Because in just a few hours, my sister was about to learn a very hard lesson. Never laugh at the dropout sister. Especially when she owns the entire world you're standing in. I stood there at the bar, nursing a glass of sparkling water, watching the room swirl around me like some perfect fairy tale scene. The Willow Estate looked magical tonight. Fairy lights draped from the beams, reflecting off the lake just beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows. Hundreds of white roses everywhere. A string quartet playing something soft and romantic. Everything Madison had ever dreamed of. And yet, all I could feel was that old ache settling in my chest. Growing up, it was always Madison and Mom against the world, and somehow, I was never quite part of that world. We lived in a small brick house on the edge of town. Mom worked double shifts at the hospital. Money was tight, but Madison still got the new clothes, the dance lessons, the yearbook photos with the perfect smile. I got hand-me-downs and the message, loud and clear, that I was the difficult one. Too sensitive, too quiet, too much trouble. When Grandma got sick, I was the one who moved into her little apartment to take care of her. I learned how to change dressings, how to make her laugh on the bad days, how to sit with her in silence when words didn't help anymore. Madison visited when she could. Mom came on weekends, but day in and day out, it was me. Grandma used to hold my hand and say, "You're the strong one, Alexa, the one who stays. This pearl bracelet is for you when I'm gone, because you've earned it with your heart." I believed her. When she passed, I was 20, broke, grieving, and exhausted. Mom was furious I'd dropped out of college. "How are you ever going to amount to anything now?" she asked at the funeral. In front of everyone. Madison just patted my shoulder and said, "It's okay, Lex, not everyone's cut out for higher education." That was the day I decided I was done trying to earn their approval. I left town a week later. The first few years were brutal. Crappy apartments, 12-hour shifts, waiting tables, nights spent studying hospitality management online while my roommates partied. But I was free. For the first time, no one was comparing me to my perfect sister. No one was telling me I wasn't enough. I worked my way up, server to bartender to shift supervisor to event coordinator. I learned how guests wanted to feel when they walked into a beautiful space, safe, seen, special. And slowly, I started saving, investing, taking calculated risks. At 28, I bought my first small inn, renovated it myself on weekends, turned it into something people raved about. Then another, and another. I built read retreats from nothing but stubbornness and a refusal to ever feel small again. But here's the part no one back home knew, even after everything. I never stopped helping. When Mom's roof started leaking, money appeared in her account. When the hospital bills from Grandma's final months piled up, they got paid, quietly, anonymously. Every month for the last 6 years, I sent what I could. Not because I expected thanks. I didn't. I did it because Grandma taught me family isn't always fair, but you show up anyway. Mom assumed the money came from Madison. Of course she did. Madison, with her big city job and her fiancé from the old money Harrington family. Madison, who could do no wrong. So Mom bragged to everyone, "My older daughter takes such good care of us. So responsible, so successful." I let her believe it. It was easier than explaining why the dropout daughter was the one keeping the lights on. And tonight, watching Madison float around in her designer gown, wearing Grandma's pearl bracelet on her wrist like it had always been meant for her, something inside me twisted. Mom had given it to her as a something old for the wedding. I hadn't said anything when I saw it sparkle under the lights. I just smiled and congratulated her like a good sister should. But inside, it hurt in a way I hadn't let myself feel in years. I was still the invisible one. Still the one who didn't matter. Until tonight. Because as I stood there, watching Ethan Harrington kiss my sister's cheek for the 100th time, I noticed something. His smile didn't quite reach his eyes. And every few minutes, he'd check his phone, his jaw tightening just a little. Something was off. I didn't know what yet. But I was about to find out. The reception was in full swing now. The string quartet had given way to a live band. The kind that plays all the classics just upbeat enough to get people on the dance floor. Laughter floated everywhere, glasses clinked, and Madison was the absolute center of it all, radiant, glowing, exactly the bride she'd planned to be since we were kids. I stayed near the edges, like I always had. Mom found me first, Victoria Reed, in her mother of the bride dress that probably cost more than my first car. She walked up with that tight little smile she saves for when she's trying not to look disappointed. "Alexa, honey," she said, kissing the air beside my cheek. "You made it. I wasn't sure you would." Her eyes did the sweep again, down to my simple navy dress. The low heels, the complete lack of jewelry. She didn't say it out loud, but I heard it anyway. You couldn't have tried a little harder? Today of all days? I came straight from work, I said quietly. It wasn't a lie. I'd spent the morning walking the grounds with my groundskeeper, making sure every detail was perfect for my sister's wedding. Mom sighed. Well, at least you're here. Just try to stay out of the photos. Okay? Madison wants everything to look cohesive. Cohesive, that was the word she used. Madison appeared a minute later, surrounded by her bridesmaids like a queen with her court. She hugged me, careful not to smudge her makeup, and whispered, "Thanks for coming, Lex. I know big crowds aren't your thing." Translation: Please don't do anything weird. I smiled. Wouldn't miss it. She pulled back, glanced at my dress, and gave a tiny laugh. Cute. Very, you. Then she was gone again, swept away by someone wanting a picture. I wandered toward the head table, just to see it up close. Place cards in calligraphy, little favors tied with silk ribbon. And there, on Madison's plate, a velvet box I recognized instantly. Grandma's pearl bracelet. The one she'd worn every day until the very end. The one she'd pressed into my hand the night before she died and whispered, "This is for you, sweet girl, for the one who stayed." I felt my throat tighten. Mom had given it to Madison as her something old. I don't know why it hit me so hard in that moment. I'd spent years building walls around that kind of hurt, but seeing it there, sparkling on my sister's wrist like it had always belonged to her, it cracked something open inside me. Ethan Harrington chose that moment to walk over. Tall, polished, old money smile firmly in place. He shook my hand like we were at a business mixer. "Alexa, right? Madison's told me all about you." His tone was warm, but his eyes were appraising. "Thanks for coming. Family means everything to us Harringtons." I nodded, watching him closely. He was good-looking in that preppy, trust fund way, but there was tension around his mouth. A quick glance at his watch. A phone buzz that he silenced immediately. His parents were at the next table, Mr. and Mrs. Harrington, dripping in quiet wealth, or what looked like wealth. I'd been in this industry long enough to spot the difference between real money and the performance of it. Mrs. Harrington's diamonds were impressive, but she kept touching them nervously. Mr. Harrington laughed too loud at jokes that weren't funny. Something wasn't adding up. I excused myself and slipped outside onto the terrace for some air. The lake was calm, lights from the estate dancing on the water. It was beautiful. I'd designed it that way. That's when I heard Ethan's voice, low, urgent, coming from the shadows near the garden path. He was on the phone, pacing. "No, listen, we need this wedding to go perfectly. Once we're family, we can tap into their resources. The Reeds have money tucked away. You've seen the house. The way Victoria talks about Madison's generosity. We just have to get through tonight and the merger will buy us time." He paused, listening. "Yes, I'm sure. Madison has no idea about the debts. Or the divorce. She thinks we're solid." My blood turned to ice. "Divorce?" I stepped back into the shadows, heart pounding. Ethan ended the call and straightened his tie, sliding that perfect smile back on like a mask before heading inside. I stood there for a long minute, pieces clicking together. The money Mom thought came from Madison? It was mine. The hidden wealth the Harringtons were counting on? Mine. And Ethan, he wasn't just marrying my sister for love. He was marrying her to save his family's sinking ship. I felt anger rise, hot, sharp, protective. Madison might have spent years treating me like I was nothing. But she was still my sister. And no one was going to use her like this. Not on my watch. Not in my resort. I slipped back inside, my mind racing. The band was playing some upbeat love song. Couples swaying on the dance floor. But everything felt a little distant now, like I was watching it all through glass. I needed answers. I found my general manager, Claire, near the service entrance. She's been with me since the early days, sharp, loyal, and one of the few people who knows exactly who owns Reed Retreats. She took one look at my face and stepped away from the staff huddle. "Everything okay, boss?" she asked quietly. I shook my head. "I need a favor. Off the books." I told her what I'd overheard. About the debts, the resources, the divorce Ethan was hiding. Claire didn't blink. Give me 30 minutes. I'll pull whatever's public and call in a couple of discreet markers. I nodded, grateful. And Claire, keep it quiet. No one hears about this until I say. She squeezed my arm. Got it. I went back to the reception, trying to act normal, smiling when people smiled at me, nodding like I belonged. But inside, I was piecing it together. For years, Mom had been telling everyone how generous Madison was, how she quietly sent money home every month to help with bills, repairs, taxes. Madison never corrected her. Why would she? It made her look good, the successful daughter taking care of the family. But it was me. Every transfer came from a Reed Retreats account I'd set up specifically for it. Anonymous, no name attached. I didn't want gratitude. I surely didn't want questions. I just wanted Mom to be okay. And now, the Harringtons had heard those stories, seen the paid-off mortgage, the new furnace, the way Mom never worried about money anymore. They'd done the math and decided the Reeds were sitting on hidden wealth. Wealth they could access once Ethan married in. I felt sick. Not just for me, for Madison. She might have spent our whole lives making me feel small, but she didn't deserve this. She didn't deserve to be a pawn in someone's financial rescue plan. Claire found me again near the dessert table, slipping a thin folder into my hands. You're not going to like this, she said under her breath. I took it to one of the quiet sitting rooms off the main hall, closed the door, and opened it under the soft lamplight. Financial headlines, court filings, a divorce decree from 5 years ago, Ethan's first marriage, dissolved quietly in another state. And then the real bombshell. Harrington Construction was drowning. Lawsuits from subcontractors, unpaid suppliers, a string of failed developments that had overextended them. They were months away from bankruptcy. There were even whispers of fraud, cutting corners on materials, falsifying inspection reports to secure loans. One article quoted an anonymous source, "They're looking for a lifeline." Any lifeline. I stared at the papers until the words blurred. This wasn't just a marriage of convenience. This was a calculated con. Ethan wasn't in love with Madison. He was in love with the idea that she came with money. Money that didn't exist. Except, it did. It was mine. And they had no idea. I sat there for a long minute, the folder in my lap, feeling something shift inside me. Part of me, the hurt little sister who'd been overlooked for decades, wanted to let it happen. Let Madison marry him. Let her find out the hard way what it feels like to be used. Let Mom watch her perfect daughter's perfect life fall apart. They'd earned it, hadn't they? All those years of comparison. All those digs about me being the failure. The dropout. The one who threw her life away. But then I thought about Madison at 10 years old, standing up to a bully who was teasing me on the playground. I thought about her sneaking into my room the night Grandma died, crawling into bed with me and holding me while I cried. She wasn't always cruel. Life, and Mom, had taught her that love was conditional. That there was only room for one star in the family. And she'd fought to be it. I closed the folder. No. I couldn't let this happen to her. Not like this. Family is messy, complicated, painful. But blood is blood. And I wasn't going to stand by and watch someone destroy my sister, even if she'd spent years destroying pieces of me. I made a decision right there in that quiet room. I was going to stop this wedding. Not with screams or scenes. But with the truth. Quietly. Patiently. The way I'd built everything else in my life. I texted Claire. Get the AV team ready. Big screen in the ballroom. I'll send you files soon. Then I called my lawyer, Rebecca, who answers my calls no matter the hour. I gave her the short version. She whistled low. You want to go public with this tonight? Yes, I said, during the father of the groom toast. Right after they cut the cake. There was a pause. You sure, Alexa? This will blow everything up. I looked out the window at the lake. Calm and dark. I'm sure. Because some things are worth more than old hurts. And protecting the people who once broke you, even when they don't deserve it, that's what healing really looks like. I walked back into the ballroom just as they were wheeling out the wedding cake. 5 tiers, white fondant, cascading sugar flowers. Madison and Ethan stood behind it, glowing under the spotlight, ready for the big moment. Everyone clapped as they picked up the silver knife together. Smiles all around, cameras flashing. I felt my phone buzz. Rebecca, my lawyer. Everything you sent checks out. The divorce is real. The lawsuits are active, and there's an ongoing investigation into Harrington Construction for fraud. I've got clean copies of the key documents scanned and ready. I typed back. Send them to Claire at the resort. She'll know what to do. Then I forwarded everything to Claire myself. Just in case. She replied almost instantly. AV booth is prepped. Files loaded. We'll switch the screen feed the second Mr. Harrington starts his toast. You sure about this? I looked across the room at Madison. She was laughing at something Ethan whispered, her hand on his arm, eyes shining with that hopeful light I remembered from when we were kids. I typed, do it. Claire gave me a subtle nod from across the room. Now it was just waiting. Mr. Harrington, tall, silver-haired, voice like a golf commentator, took the microphone after the cake cutting. The band quieted, guests settled into their seats. He started with the usual, how proud he was of his son. How Ethan had found the perfect woman. How the Harringtons were thrilled to welcome Madison into the family. Then he turned to Mom and Madison. And to the Reed family, we've heard such wonderful things about your close-knit bond. About Madison's generosity, the way she's always taken care of her own. We feel honored to join a family with such strong values and such stability. Stability. The word landed like a stone in my stomach. He raised his glass higher. To love, to family, to the bright future we're building together. The crowd echoed, to love, to family. Glasses lifted. That was the cue. I caught Claire's eye. She nodded once. The massive screen behind the head table, where a slideshow of Madison and Ethan's engagement photos had been playing all night, flickered. For a second, everyone probably thought it was a glitch. Then the first document appeared. A court-stamped divorce decree. Ethan James Harrington and his previous wife. Finalized 5 years ago. Gasps rippled through the room. The screen changed again. A headline. Harrington Construction faces multiple lawsuits over shoddy workmanship. Then financial statements, red ink everywhere. Debt notices, bankruptcy warnings. Another slide. An email chain between Ethan and his father discussing securing the Reed assets post-marriage to stall creditors. The room went deathly quiet. Mr. Harrington's face drained of color. He turned toward the IV booth. Voice sharp. Turn that off. Technical error. Someone fix this now. But the slides kept coming. Claire had done her job perfectly. Madison stared at the screen. Mouth open. Her bouquet slipped from her fingers and hit the floor with a soft thud. Ethan reached for her arm. Mads, baby, this is fake. Someone's trying to. She pulled away, eyes filling. I stepped forward then. Not running, not yelling. Just walking calmly through the parted crowd. My shoes clicking softly on the hardwood. Every face turned toward me. The dropout sister. The one in the thrift store dress. I took the microphone from Mr. Harrington's frozen hand. Good evening, everyone, I said, my voice steady. I'm sorry to interrupt, but there's something you all should know before any more toasts are made. I turned slightly toward the screen. Ethan Harrington is already divorced. He hid it from my sister. A murmur. Harrington Construction is months from bankruptcy. They've been named in fraud investigations. Louder murmurs. And they believed my family had money they planned to use to save themselves. I paused, letting it sink in. That money doesn't come from Madison. I looked straight at Mom. Her face was pale, eyes wide. It comes from me. Silence. I've been sending it home for 6 years. Quietly. Because even when family hurts you, you don't stop caring. Then I turned to the room. Oh, and one more thing. I smiled, small and real. This resort, the Willow Estate, I own it. I'm Alexa Reed, CEO of Reed Retreats. I let that hang for a beat. You called me the broke dropout sister? I looked right at Madison. But this dropout owns the ground you're standing on tonight. Madison's hand flew to her wrist. She unclasped Grandma's pearl bracelet with shaking fingers and let it fall to the table with a soft clink. Her eyes met mine, tears spilling over. Alexa, she whispered. Ethan tried to speak, but no words came. Mr. Harrington was already heading toward the exit, his wife trailing behind, guests parting like the Red Sea. The band didn't start playing again. No one knew what to do. I handed the microphone back to the DJ, who looked shell-shocked. Then I walked over to Madison. She was crying openly now. I didn't hug her, not yet. But I didn't walk away either. I just stood there, waiting. Because sometimes, the truth hurts. But it's the only thing that sets you free. The ballroom felt like it was holding its breath. No music, no chatter, just the soft clink of someone setting down a glass too hard. And the distant sound of the Harringtons' hurried footsteps echoing down the hall as they left. Madison stood frozen by the cake, mascara starting to streak. Her beautiful gown suddenly looked too heavy, like it was pulling her down. She looked at me, really looked at me, for the first time in years. Alexa, her voice cracked. Is this real? I nodded slowly. All of it. She glanced down at the pearl bracelet on the table, then back at me. Her hand went to her mouth. Grandma's bracelet, Mom told me it was for the bride. For luck. I didn't know, I swear I didn't know she promised it to you. Mom appeared beside her then, face ashen, clutching her little clutch purse like a lifeline. Alexa, she whispered, what did you just say? About the money? I turned to her. My voice was quiet, but it carried in the silence. For 6 years, Mom, every month, the mortgage, the taxes, the new water heater last winter, even the cruise you took with your friends 2 years ago. Her eyes filled. I thought it was Madison. Madison shook her head, tears spilling faster now. It wasn't me, Mom. I let you think it was because it felt good to be the one you were proud of. But it was never me. She looked back at me. It was you, all this time. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. The truth was finally out in the open, raw and bright under the chandeliers I picked out myself. A few guests started slipping away quietly. Others stayed, too stunned or too curious to leave. The DJ hovered awkwardly, microphone in hand, not sure if the night was over. Madison took a shaky step toward me. I'm sorry, she said, voice breaking completely. I'm so sorry, Lex, for everything, for letting Mom compare us, for acting like you didn't matter, for wearing that bracelet tonight like it was mine to take. She reached for my hand. I let her take it. Her fingers were ice cold. I didn't know about Ethan, she whispered. I thought he loved me. I squeezed her hand once. I know. Mom stepped closer too, eyes red. Baby, I was wrong. So wrong. I pushed Madison up on a pedestal because she was easy to praise. You were always the strong one, the quiet one, and I mistook that for weakness. I'm ashamed. Her voice trembled. I don't expect forgiveness tonight. I know I don't deserve it. But I need you to know I see you now. I see everything you've done. Everything you are. I looked at both of them, my sister in her ruined wedding dress. My mother smaller than I'd ever seen her. I felt the old hurt rise up, sharp and familiar. But underneath it, something softer was stirring too. Not full forgiveness, not yet. That would take time. But understanding, maybe. A beginning. I picked up Grandma's pearl bracelet from the table, held it in my palm. It was warm from Madison's skin. I fastened it around my own wrist. It fit perfectly. Madison watched me do it, fresh tears falling. It looks right there, she said softly. I nodded. The three of us stood there for a long moment, surrounded by half-eaten cake and wilted flowers and the quiet wreckage of what the night had been supposed to be. Then Madison let out a shaky laugh that was half sob. What happens now? The catering's paid for, and there's an open bar. I almost smiled. Might as well let people enjoy it. The night's already paid for too. Some of the remaining guests laughed nervously. A few even headed toward the bar. The DJ, bless him, started playing something slow and gentle. Not wedding music. Just music. Madison wiped her eyes. Will you dance with me? Just one dance? Like when we were kids and practiced in the living room to Mom's old records? I looked at her for a long second. Then I held out my hand. She took it. And for the first time in decades, my sister and I danced, awkwardly, tear-streaked, in a room full of strangers. But together. 2 months later, I was sitting in my office at the Willow Estate, looking out over the lake on a crisp morning. The leaves had turned, the water was that deep steel blue, and everything felt quieter. The wedding story made local news for a week or so. Luxury resort owner exposes groom's secrets at sister's wedding. One headline even called me, the dropout who saved the day. I had that one framed. It hangs on the wall behind my desk now, right where I can see it when I need reminding. Madison moved out of the apartment she shared with Ethan the very next day. She came home to Mom's for a while. They both started therapy, separately at first, then together. Madison called me a week after the wedding. Her voice was small. Can we talk? In person? We met for coffee at a little place near the resort. Neutral ground. She looked different, no makeup, hair in a ponytail, like the girl I remembered from childhood. She apologized again, not the dramatic kind, the real kind, quiet, specific. For the comparisons. For letting Mom pit us against each other. For enjoying being the favorite. For wearing Grandma's bracelet without asking questions. I was scared, she said, scared if I wasn't the perfect one, I'd end up invisible too. So I pushed you down to feel taller. I listened. I didn't forgive her all at once. Forgiveness isn't a light switch. But I heard her. We started small, texts, then lunches, then long talks about things we'd buried for years. Mom joined us sometimes. She's learning too, learning to see both her daughters clearly. It's messy. There are still old wounds that flare up. But we're building something new. Slowly, honestly. This morning, I hosted a brunch in the estate's lakeside pavilion. Not a wedding, something better. I'd started a scholarship through Read Retreats, for women who had to pause or leave college to care for family. Women who got called irresponsible for choosing love over a degree plan. Women like me. We had investors, partners, a few local press people. Everyone dressed to impress. That's when she walked in. A young woman, 21, maybe 22, simple dress, practical shoes, ponytail, eyes wide as she took in the chandeliers and the view. She looked like she felt out of place. One of the investors, Gerald, older guy, too much cologne, leaned over and said, loud enough for others to hear, "Who let her in? This is a private event." I stood up, walked over to her, extended my hand. "Nicole," I said warmly, loud enough for the table to hear. "I'm so glad you made it." I turned to the room. "Everyone, I'd like you to meet Nicole Evans, this year's recipient of the Read Retreats Caregiver Scholarship." I told them her story, how she'd left school to care for her sick mom. Worked 2 jobs, got straight A's when she went back part-time. How she was starting the hospitality program at Cornell next fall. Gerald suddenly found his coffee fascinating. I led Nicole to the seat right next to me, the one at the head table. She whispered, "Thank you," eyes shiny. I smiled, "Don't thank me yet, the work's just starting." Then I leaned in so only she could hear. "And if anyone ever makes you feel like you don't belong, remember this. The people who build the most beautiful things usually start with nothing but grit and heart." She smiled then, a real one. After brunch, I stood in the lobby watching guests leave, families checking in for vacations, couples on weekend getaways, all of them walking through spaces I'd created. None of them knowing the woman who made it possible was the one in the simple dress, standing quietly by the window. And that's okay. I don't need them to know. People will always try to shrink you because of where you came from. Because you left school. Because you chose family over ambition, at least. That's what they think. Let them. Let them laugh. Let them call you the dropout. The broke one. The failure. While they're busy looking down. You rise. Quietly. Steadily. Until one day, you're the one holding the ground they're standing on. And you realize the real victory isn't the reveal. It's the healing. The boundaries you set. The love you give, even when it's hard. The life you build on your own terms. That's what makes you unbreakable. I touched Grandma's pearl bracelet on my wrist. It's still there. Every day. Reminding me where I came from. And how far I've come. Not in spite of my story. But because of it.